did you believe they could be true?
I went into my work for the Trump campaign with an open mind. I know what they wanted me to find, and what I told them before we started everything was that I would do my best, but whatever the data showed is what the data would show. And as I worked my way through the data looking for fraud on my own, it was clear pretty early on that we weren't going to come anywhere close to finding the fraud that the campaign needed us to try to find.
Rudy Giuliani has been sued for defamation successfully by 2 election poll workers who he defamed, claiming they committed voter fraud. Did you find, and he's still insisting, even after that he was correct about that. Did you find anything that happened in Georgia that would indicate fraud by election officials at all?
So, no, but to be clear, my task and what my area of expertise is looking at voter data. And so the claims of voter fraud that I was asked to evaluate were claims that were made based upon someone's interpretation of data. What Rudy Giuliani brought forward in terms of his allegations against Ruby Freeman, for example, were, well, other than the fact that they were straight up lies, as he admitted, there was no data behind those allegations. It was an interpretation of the video, and I had nothing to do with that.
What was the reaction when you would repeat sort of on a rolling basis, there's no fraud here, there's no fraud in Arizona, there's no fraud in Michigan? As you would tell them that, what was the campaign's reaction?
Yeah, so as the first couple of claims they asked me to look at, the question was, can you tell me if this is right? You know, help us understand. By the end, every claim I was given was prefaced with, tell me why this one is wrong.
Okay, so the Washington Post did something very similar. They looked at these voter fraud sort of crackdowns that are happening in Republican states. And they analyzed Texas, Florida, Ohio, Virginia, Arkansas, and Georgia. They found a grand total of 47 convictions during a period in which tens of millions of votes were cast. 76% of those defendants whose race and ethnicity could be identified were Black or Hispanic, while white people constituted 24% of those who were prosecuted for something like errors and mistakes in voting. Did the Trump campaign seem particularly interested in precincts where lots of Black and brown people lived?
So my work was on a statewide basis. I didn't drill down into specific precincts or counties. The work that I did particularly was looking for deceased voters, was looking for duplicate voters, and we were taking as much of a national look at that as we could. The claims that came to me that others brought were also more or less statewide claims, as opposed to anything that was dealing with especially down at the precinct level. No, there was nothing like that.
And so you didn't find claims that millions and millions of dead people voted, millions and millions of people voted using other people's names, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we didn't find any. There was no data that I was able to uncover that showed enough voter fraud that could have altered any election result in any state that we had. To the campaign's credit, as we worked our way through this, the lawyers I reported to were interested in the truth of the matter. They accepted what I told them. They brought my information to Mark Meadows, and they told Mark Meadows, who was Trump's chief of staff at the time, that no fraud was determined that the campaign could find. And then we learned that Mark Meadows took that information and brought it to the Oval Office. So my work found its way all the way into the Oval Office, and they knew that the campaign, through my efforts, was unable to not only find fraud on its own, but all the other claims of fraud we were asked to look at were most definitely false.
Very interesting to know, as Mark Meadows now faces